Friends, today is a day in India which we look back to with great concern and apprehension. Because 26 years ago, on this very day, in broad daylight, we saw the demolition of the Babri Masjid. This was a turning point in our history and politics of our country. Hartosh Bala just told you about the significance of that date. I don't think many of you were even born at that date probably. How many of you have been born after 1992? After 1992, please raise your hands. Quite a large number. But we went through that whole process at that time. And some of us had a ringside seat regarding the whole events that led to the demolition of the Babri Masjid. Because that was not just an assault on minority rights in our country. It was an assault on our constitution, on the secular principle of the constitution and the rule of law as ordained in the constitution. There were 20,000 central paramilitary forces stationed in and around Ayodhya at that time. And the then Prime Minister of India, Sri Narasimha Rao, 4 days before the Babri Masjid demolition, some of us went in a delegation to meet him, led by Sri VP Singh, to tell him that there is an ominous build-up of the so-called car sevaks in Ayodhya. The minorities there are in a panic. They've already started vandalizing the Qabristan there and other monuments. We are getting telegrams after telegrams. In those days, that was the main form of communication. We presented those telegrams to him and said, you must act now. This is just 4 days before the demolition. On the 2nd of December, we met him in Parliament House. And he told us, don't worry, I have talked to Raju Bhaiya, who is the RSS chief, not the chief at that time, one important leader, Rajinder Singh, who later on became the Sarsang Chalak, and he has assured me that they will only do puja at the site, nothing more. So go back, don't worry, everything is under control. So what I'm trying to tell you is that the Indian state completely, miserably failed to defend the Constitution because the Supreme Court had given an order. And before the Supreme Court, the then Chief Minister of Uttar Pradesh, Kalyan Singh, had given a written assurance that apart from the puja and car seva, nothing is going to happen to the monument. But still, they were allowed to break the cordon, they were allowed to enter the mosque, and they were allowed to demolish it within the space of 4 hours. And that marked a qualitative change in our political map of India. The rise of the Hindutva forces, whose logical culmination you saw in 2014 when the BJP got an absolute majority in the Lok Sabha and the Narendra Modi government was formed. Now, what we are witnessing, what we witnessed before from 1992 and now after the BJP has come into power at the center is a systematic subversion of the Constitution. And all the institutions and the institutions of the state and those institutions which are set up under the Constitution whether it's the judiciary, whether it's the bureaucracy, whether it's the police forces, whether it's the CBI, whether it's the RBI, whether it is the higher educational institutions, every structure and institution which is there under the Constitution, including the political system, is now sought to be subverted from within. Dr. Ambedkar, whose death anniversary also we are observing today, had said about the Constitution. He said, if the Constitution is good, but if those who implement it are not good, then it will become bad. The Constitution itself will be bad. And that is what we are witnessing today, experiencing today. That there is a contradiction. And that contradiction is that those who are sworn under the Constitution, who have taken an oath under the Constitution, and who exercise power and hold office under the Constitution, they do not actually believe in this Constitution or have any faith or commitment to this Constitution. And they are working to undermine this Constitution while deriving their power from this very Constitution. This is the contradiction. And we are seeing the consequences of that in every sphere of our society. Today, we have seen again, as the Lok Sabha elections are drawing near, the revival of the demand from the entire RSS and its outfits, the whole Sangh brigade, that we cannot wait any longer. The Supreme Court has hurt the sentiments of the Hindus by refusing to take up the Ayodhya appeals case, the Allahabad High Court appeals case now. So bring an ordinance. Government should bring an ordinance to facilitate the construction of the temple at the disputed site. What happened in JNU yesterday of the BHP and the Bajrang Dal entering the campus is part of the yatra they are undertaking before their rally on 9th December at Ramlila ground to make the same demand, that an ordinance should be brought. And the RSS chief Bhagwat has said on the 25th of November that you must build pressure on the government. We are not fighting the government, but we are bringing pressure on the government to make sure that they bring this ordinance. That is the purpose of this campaign. So every time we see that the Ram temple then becomes an urgent priority for the Hindutva brigade, every time an election appears and they hope to make political capital out of it, they hope to create a communal polarization in the country which hopefully they think would benefit them. Everyone knows this ordinance is not possible because the Supreme Court is already seized of the matter. The case is before it. And Parliament cannot forget about an ordinance. An ordinance will have to be then legalized, legitimized by an act of Parliament. So Parliament cannot do this. Everyone knows this, but they want to keep the pot boiling. They want to keep the issue alive so that this can be used in the forthcoming Lok Sabha election. But that will be done at a heavy cost. You saw what happened in the last few days in Bulandshahr. It is all a planned, systematic effort to create communal tensions and communal riots in Western UP, just like they did it in Muzaffarnagar in 2013, September 2013. Again, 6-7 months before the Lok Sabha election. So the Ram Temple demand is going to be orchestrated and calibrated till the Lok Sabha election. And an outcome of that in many places would be communal tensions and communal riots also, violence, which they hope will help them in the elections. So this is the issue which is now once again being brought to the center of national affairs at a time when the Modi government, which has in the last 4.5 years had a dismal record, failure on all fronts, whether it's promise of jobs, whether it's the promise of providing farmers with a remunerative price, whether it is the question of development. In all these areas, since the Modi government has failed to perform and deliver, they will fall back on that time-tested tactic of advancing the Hindutva agenda, which is the communal agenda. So that's why it's very important at this juncture, on this day, to really not only look back and understand what happened on the 6th of December in 1992, but also understand the whole trajectory of the growth of the Hindutva right-wing forces in our country. And there, the way to counter this disruptive, divisive Ram Janmabhoomi agitation or other issues like cow slaughter, etc., is to see that the working people of our country are mobilized, get united to fight for their basic rights, their livelihood rights, their jobs, the farmers' rights, the rights of all working people and democratic rights in general. And we have seen already in this last few days and weeks, on the 25th of November in Ayodhya, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad organized the so-called Dharam Sabha with the same demand that bring an ordinance. 5 days later, or 4 days later, on the 29th and then 30th of November, we saw the Kisan Mukti March in Delhi, where thousands of farmers came from all over the country with their charter of demands. Before that, on the 5th of September, we saw a huge rally, the first worker-peasant rally we have seen in recent times of these proportions, with workers, agricultural workers and farmers putting out their class demands. And we have seen all over the country in these last few weeks struggles and movements of different sections of the working people. The rally in Delhi on 30th November was far bigger than what the VHP could mobilize in Ayodhya. They promised to mobilize 1 lakh people, but there were hardly 25,000 people there in Ayodhya that day. So, in this rally, if some of you had attended this rally, you'd have heard one of the slogans of the farmers was, Ayodhya nahi, कर्ज माफी चाहिए हमें. Ayodhya nahi चाहिए हमें, कर्ज माफी चाहिए. So the way to counter this Hindutva communal agenda is to forge the unity of the working people who are already suffering immensely under the Modi regime. Whether they are the workers, whether it is the peasants, whether it's the agricultural workers, whether it is the artisans, whether it is the Dalits, whether it's the Adivasis, all sections today are under attack. And this constitution is not going to be protected by these ruling class parties. It's not going to be protected by somebody trying to say, I am a Shiv Bhakt against you being a Ram Bhakt, you see. That's what the Congress party has now started trying to do. You see their campaign in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan. You see, we are better Hindus than you. You see, that's what they're trying to prove. That's not going to work. If the BJP is going to be defeated, and it's very possible, in Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh, is because the farmers are going to vote them out. It's because the youth are going to vote them out because of no jobs. It's because the common people are going to vote them out because of corruption and misrule. Not because the Congress party now today is constituted by better Hindus. So today we have a situation in our country where we must have confidence, rely on the ordinary people, the working people. For them, the Constitution, which they may not have read even, for them is a living thing because their rights, the rights that they are being deprived of, the rights that are being curtailed, those rights are there in the Constitution. You see, the Constitution says all citizens are equal. The Fundamental Rights chapter. All citizens are equal irrespective of religion, sex, caste, vagara, vagara. But as far as the reality is concerned, for the Modi regime and for the Hindutva walas, all citizens are equal, but the cow is more equal than all of them. Even a police officer in Bulandshahr, Subodh Kumar Singh, was killed, murdered, because of the Bajrang Dal and the VHP protesting against some so-called very suspicious case of cow slaughter. I don't want to go into those details. So today in our country, in Uttar Pradesh, where Adityanath rules, the cow is above all citizens. The Constitution doesn't work. You see. It's not just the minorities are second-class citizens. Today the cow will be above all of you, whether you're Hindus or Muslims or anybody else. There's a special category of citizenship given. You see. Some people who believe in animal rights may think India is going ahead very much now. So, in such a situation, we have to confront this agenda, which is calculated, which is deliberate, and which is going to be ratcheted up in the next 6 months. You'll find it in various forms. We'll have to counter it by mobilizing the people. And you can't mobilize the people on abstract principles of secularism, etc., etc. You have to mobilize the people on their daily issues, their problems, of their livelihood, of employment, of wages, of land, etc. That is what is urgently required today. And we must challenge the RSS, BJP combined in all fronts, in all spheres. In Kerala now, they are similar to the Ram Janmabhoomi agitation. They have started an agitation against the entry of women to the Sabarmati temple. And Amit Shah goes to Kerala and makes a speech where he says the courts must only pass such judgments which can be implemented or implementable. That is, we will decide which judgments can be implemented and those which are unimplementable. It's an advance warning to the Supreme Court. Don't give any judgment which will go against our interests in the Ayodhya dispute. Second, he said in that speech, judgment should not be given which hit the faith of the people. Hit the faith of the people. So faith will be above the Constitution as far as the BJP and the RSS are concerned. So the faith says women cannot have entry into the temple. But the constitution under which the Supreme Court has acted, the Supreme Court said no, women have equal rights for worship. Women have equal rights as far as going into a temple. Now the difference is, unlike in 1992, when you had Sri Narasimha Rao and the Congress party in government at the centre, in Kerala there is an LDF government, a Left Democratic Front government. And that government has said, we will implement this judgment. We are constitutionally bound by the Supreme Court decision. And we are not going to allow the BJP and the RSS to subvert this judgment by preventing women to come into the temple. And that struggle is going on now for the last 2 months. But how do you face them? We face them, we counter them by mobilizing the people. And in the last 5 weeks in Kerala, there's an intense campaign among the people to tell them about the Supreme Court judgment, what are its implications, how it is important for a secular state and government to implement such a judgment, and how it is about women's rights and gender equality. And we have decided in Kerala, not political parties, but we have asked all social organizations also, all those who believe that in Kerala there has been a social reform movement, a renaissance, to come together and mobilize women. And on the 1st of January, we are going to have more than 10 lakh women creating a wall in Kerala, from Kasaragod to Trivandrum, to say that we uphold our equal rights and we want our equal rights to be enforced. So that is how we are going to counter. So it is necessary to wage a struggle, an ideological struggle, a political struggle, and mass struggles. And I am confident that even at this juncture, where much ground has been ceded to the right-wing forces, if we go about mobilizing the people, bringing them together, fight for their rights, that is the way the Constitution can be defended, secularism can be defended, and we can foil the game plan of the RSS and the BJP. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. I think, when we have to resist the politics